Digital technology promotes the cinema, and the cinema is a unique and prestigious location for cultural encounters, open to all films and all audiences. I think that's very nicely put. So, moving forward to the national policies and support schemes. As you've heard already about France, I don't have to speak more about that. You know how it's working, and there's this wonderful thing with the legislation. You actually have a law, which makes it much easier to implement the change. So I will go on talking about other countries. Second, in terms of the number of screens, is Great Britain. More than 50% of all English screens are digital today. And 2011, almost all films are also digital. They've had their lottery scheme before. They now have a new fund to get smaller cinemas on board called the Digital Funding Partnership, which is an industry initiative. It's not from the government. And it contains 400 screens, which is 10% of the total screens in the UK, and they are going to be digital within the next 18 months. They will use a VPN system from a third-party company, XDC. This is a deal over 8 years, where each cinema also will be part of paying for the equipment, so they will pay 115 euros per month for 8 years to finance their equipment. Ireland, close by, they also have a cinema digitization scheme. They had some money in 2009, some money in 2011, and it's being financed by the Cultural Council and Irish Film Board. And this year, they already have more digital films than 35mm films. But many of the smaller rural town cinemas are in danger because they are not part of the scheme, so they really have to find a way of getting them in there. Germany is on third place in Europe in the digitization. So 12.1% of Europe's digital screens are in Germany today. And their growth rate of digital was 60%, will be 60% this year. And the purpose of their support is actually from a cultural point of view. They want to preserve cultural diversity in German cinemas, and they want to support small and mid-sized cinemas so they can survive. And also, there has to be an amount of domestic films from Germany as well as European films on the screens of the support cinemas. The support goes out to cinemas with less than 260,000 euros turnaround. So the big exhibitors are cut out of this deal, and you also have to have less than 8,000 tickets sold per year to be part of the support. And it's a cumulative support, so you can actually apply for money from different institutions. One is the Ministry for Cultural and Media. You can get a maximum of 25% of investment from them, a maximum of 17,500 euros per screen. And also a maximum of 30% of investment if they show 50% films from Europe during 3 years, or if the town has less than 20,000 people living there. And the cinema must contribute with their own financing of 20%. And they must also be part of a local funding scheme. And then you can apply money from the German Federal Film Board with the same criteria as for the ministry. And here it's a maximum of 15% of investment, but you can't get support for 3D. And this is the same in many places in Europe, because governments and film institutes feel that 3D is a commercial application, so you should be able to afford it yourself as an exhibitor. And then the third is from the federal governments, where you can get somewhere between 17 and 20,000 euros, depending on in which part of the country you have your cinema. And here also the cinema must participate with 20%. Regarding the commercial cinemas, they the government in Germany feel they will have to take care of the financing themselves. However, there's a new industry initiative coming along where they will help out each other. And if you have very few tickets sold, you can't be part of the support either. But still, many cinemas have a hard time finding the 20%. And this is quite interesting. This is some information I got from Europa Cinemas, that there are still German exhibitors who believe that the digital revolution will not happen. And I can just say, sorry, it will. You know, it will, definitely. And some also believe that it's okay to have a 1.4K projector. Well, it is okay in a sense, because if you have some distributors who say, you can stream my film from a media player or from a Blu-ray disc, but it's a small minority of the distributors who are okay with that today, because of course of the risk of piracy, for instance. There are no secure measures there. And they're also skeptical to TCI as a sort of an official standardization committee, as you should all be, of course, because they are not ratified by any government. But it's a fact that Hollywood makes the rules, so there's no point in trying to argue against that. I know I tried for many years with my circuit, but today this is a fact. In Austria, 67% of the screens are digital, mainly in the big cinemas. They have a support scheme for art house cinemas and cinemas in rural towns. So they also are looking at the diversity, that they want the cinemas to survive. They also have a cultural point of view in their support schemes, that the cinema must screen at least 35 non-national European films and 10% Austrian films. And the maximum support is 20,000 euros per screen, so it's about a third of the investment. And the support should be complemented with support from local authorities. I know this is so many facts, I know this is just going to spin around in your heads, but I just want to make an overview of the way it looks in Europe. The Netherlands have also now a national interest in digital cinema. It's a support scheme called Cinema Digital, and it's a non-commercial independent organization with all the parties from the film industries participating. So you have both distributors, exhibitors, and the Dutch iFilm Institute. Their objective is to digitize all cinemas in Holland during 2 years, with a VPF model with the third-party Arts Alliance, as well as government funding. Since everyone is involved, the whole industry, it's much easier to make this happen, because there's no one trying to stop it. And the major players in the country, they don't interfere, because they know they can finance the equipment themselves. Total budget of this scheme is 38 million euros, so it's a lot of money. And as you see, it comes from different parts of the industry. Also, and this is quite interesting, since I was talking about BPF, you will be able to stream alternative content, but you must pay 20 euros per hour into this Cinema Digital for alternative content from each exhibitor. And it has now been authorized by the competition authorities in Europe. Spain is planning a government support, but nothing is finalized yet. And as you know, in many countries, the financial crisis is striking really hard. So at the moment, there's a big wait in Spain about what will happen. But today, in Spain, those films are still available in 35mm. Italy, 28% of all screens are digital today. The same as for other countries, it's mostly in the major cities and multiplexes. And their growth rate was quite small this year. And of course, Italy also has a financial crisis. They are looking at some different ways of treating digital development. One is tax deductions for buying digital, one is VPF deals, and one is local support deals. But the rollout in terms of independent art house cinemas is very small, and very few of the art house titles are available in digital in Italy today. So they are still thinking about it, but they have other problems at the moment. So what about Central and Eastern Europe? Well, there are some government initiatives. A lot of the countries in Eastern Europe also have financial problems, but in the Czech Republic they have a national support scheme which covers 50% of the cost, and today 23% of all the screens in the country are digital. In Slovakia they're thinking about digital, so they're doing an investigation right now from the government. There is a small national support in Poland, but there's also lack of financing there. But they have a number of digital screens already, which have been supported with about 50 to 70% of the cost. Croatia and Slovenia, still thinking about it. And then there's a number of countries that don't have any support for digital cinema. And especially in Hungary, it's a big gulf between the multiplexes and the independents, and no one of the independents are getting any government aid. The same goes for Romania, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and Bulgaria. In other countries in Europe, there are also no national digital support schemes. In Belgium, there is some local funding, but nothing national. Nothing in Luxembourg. Greece, of course, have great financial problems, so I would say that digital cinema is top of the list in terms of what they want to finance. And in Portugal, some cultural cinemas, as they are called, get some support from the structural funds in the EU, but not from the Portuguese government. In Scandinavia, we at the moment have the highest digital cinema growth rate in Europe. So these numbers are from 2009 to 2010. So the growth rate in Denmark was 444% of digital screens, Norway 339%, and Sweden 308%. So things are moving along really quickly in Scandinavia. Norway sets the example, I would say, for the whole world, because all screens in Norway are now digital since August of this year. They did a digitization over 18 months. They have a total of 414 screens, and the budget was 4.7 million euro. Norway has a very special situation because most of the cinemas are owned by the local community, by the city, and it has been since 1902 or something like that. Which means that if a minister or someone in charge points his arm, that's going to happen in a completely different way when you have a diversity of exhibitors and distributors. The financing comes from Film and Kino, which is a financially very strong government body for film.